about what I call whole being healing, right? So when we're talking about whole being, we know that physical is great exercise, right? Mental skills training. But one of the things that we forget is about adding spirit, adding purpose, adding meaning and fulfillment to our lives. So when we talk about whole being, we're talking about spirit, right? Meaning, purpose, fulfillment. The mind, your thoughts, your beliefs, your self-perception, and the physical, taking care of the physical body. So when we're talking about healing, healing is the process of allowing wholeness, harmony, reconnection, right? I'm going to repeat that. So healing, one, is a process. Two, is a matter of getting out of our way and allowing, right? Of allowing wholeness. And wholeness is different to different people. Harmony, that reconnection, again, that means it's already in us, right? So whole being healing is the process of allowing wholeness, balance, reconnection, again, of the spirit, the mind, and the body. So some years ago, right, when I was, I guess, kind of a height of my physical fitness, right, I was exercising 5 or 6 days a week. I had my recovery day, right? I was eating well, eating healthy, drinking plenty of water, getting plenty of quality sleep. But there was something that was out of sync, something that was still off, something in the background that was nudging me, right? And instead of tapping into that, I kept pushing it to the side. And wholeness, to me, is happiness, health, fulfillment, and inner peace. But instead of having those things, I began to feel tension, stress, overwhelmed. I had all these thoughts ruminating on in my mind, right? And kind of step back a little bit. And so that tension, that turned into, first it started off as a little whisper, right? That little nudge got up a little whisper. And then it got a little louder, so that tension, stress, overwhelmed, and all the thoughts remaining turned into high blood pressure. And it still didn't get my attention. Right? Years later, I'm standing in my kitchen, and from there I went to an anxiety attack. Right? I used fitness training as well, but I heard clients talk about it, but I had never experienced it. Still didn't get my attention. There was something within me that needed to be expressed. Right? Then next it turned into chronic injuries. And that's actually what got my attention, because it affected my quality of life, because I could no longer do those things that I really wanted to do. I love doing fitness, no stress, like exercising and working out. I couldn't do that, so I sat down and I had to take a look and look within, right? And so finally I decided to take some time and look into that nudge feeling, right? To tap into the inner wisdom of the body. The body has an infinite amount of wisdom and knowledge. It's a matter of tapping into that, right? And when I began to tap in, and remember the process. So when I began to tap in, it constantly let me know that there was an area in my life that was out of balance, that wasn't in harmony, that needed healing, right? There was an area of my life where I was living from my limitations, my conditioning, what I thought I should be, who I thought I should be, right? And I was taking all of this energy, that part of me that wanted to be expressed, and I was repressing it, suppressing it. And it came out as body, mind, it came out as tension. It came out as stress. It came out as being overwhelmed. It came out all these thoughts, no inner peace, right? Just like many of you have an area of your life that needs healing, that you're avoiding, and you know it because you can feel it. But many of us are afraid to, because we're taught to focus on everything external, right? But when we take all of that energy, we press it down, we feel stress, we feel tension, but we can feel it on the inside. We're not living purposely, right? We forgot about adding meaning, fulfillment to our lives, to enjoy it. Life is meant to be enjoyed. So I have to sit down and take a look, right? Now, when we're talking about the spirit, the mind, and the body, there's an intimate, dynamic, reciprocal relationship. The state or condition of one affects the state or condition of the other. So remember, I was exercising, I was doing everything that I felt that I needed to do. I was setting my goals, right? Accomplishing my goals, and everything was empty. So remember, I was doing exercising, but there was something that was off balance. I didn't add the spirit, my purpose. It was something that I was avoiding. So when I began to tap in, it told me there were three things, areas that I needed to focus on. And that's clarity of spirit, focus on my mind, and then self-care for my physical body. When we're talking about clarity of spirit, I needed to get to know me, right? I was living someone else's version of my life, and that was successful. Because again, there was something that was within my spirit, my purpose, that needed being expressed, but I wasn't expressing, I was pushing it down, right? Many of you know that there's an area of your life, you live from your conditions, the limitations. You know that there's much, much, much more to life and to you than what you're living right now. I was functioning way below my potential, like many of us. You know it because you're prepared. But many of us are afraid to add purpose to our life, right? Because we're focusing on our condition, but we're supposed to be. I can't, I should, I don't want to, I'm too old, I'm too young. Age is irrelevant. If you were put here for a purpose, right, then age has nothing to do with it. It's a matter of you stepping into that. So, I remember some years ago when they were having an issue with counterfeit money, right? And I read an article. So a division of the FBI, as far as counterfeit money, they don't study the counterfeit. I found that interesting. They study the real dollar bill in order to spot counterfeit. So for me, I knew that I had to tap in and get to know me, right? Not what I was told, not who I was told to be, the real me, because I was calling out to me. All of that energy was boiling in, and it needed to be expressed. So, all of us have an area of our life, right? Again, that we need healing. And we have a story that we tell. And I had to sit down and take the time, and I had to write down my story that I was telling myself and I was telling other people. And when I sat down, I looked at it, I was like, oh my goodness, I felt some type of way at first, because I was like, is that coming from me? Is that what I tell people? Is that what I tell myself? But then I tapped in a little more. Remember, it's a process. So each time I tapped in, a little more information. And it let me know that, one, I needed to be grateful for my story. Because my story is what brought me to this point. And when I focused on being grateful, right, and opened up possibilities, and then I looked and I said, wow, well, hold on. This is letting me know what I truly desire, right? It let me know what I was avoiding. Over all the years, I've been in the fitness wellness industry for over 20 years. And even though people would come to me for fitness, or they come to me for body mind coaching, the main thing that was coming up was, I don't know what my purpose is. Right? And even though for me, I said that I wanted to be happy, healthy, fulfilled, and have inner peace, I didn't even know what that meant. So I knew that I was living someone else's version of my life, and it was uncomfortable, right? And learning how to tap in and listen to the condition of the body is uncomfortable, but I was uncomfortable anyway. So I said, why not be uncomfortable living the life that I came here to live? Right? So after that story, I had to sit back, take a deep breath, because I knew if I was going to tap into a higher version of myself, that story, it felt disempowering. It was heavy. It felt weighing me down. And so I knew that if I wanted to embrace a higher version of myself, I was going to have to let that story go. Remember, it's a process. It was not overnight. It's a continuous process. And it was hard because letting that story go was like almost the best friend. I could tell that story for years, right? And so after that, I had to sit back and I said, I wanted to rewrite my story. I wanted to write something that was empowering. I wanted to give myself some type of direction that was coming from my inner spirit, not what I was told who I should be or told what I should do. And then from there, after I rewrote my story, right? In the spirit, I was getting to know myself. And then I had to learn how to start being grateful. I had always focused on what was wrong and complaining, and that kept me in that state of mind. And it felt heavy, right? Remember, the body is always talking to us in a matter of listening, but the body is always listening to us as well, right? It listens to what you need to tell yourself. So then, from being grateful, I had to learn how to acknowledge myself. Because I did what I called focusing on the positive side of the negative. I thought I was doing things that were positive, but my mind was always focused on what was wrong, what it didn't do right, what it didn't say, right? And again, the state of condition of one, spirit, mind, and body affects the state of condition of the other. And then once I began to acknowledge myself and my efforts, no matter how small they were, and I began to open up and tap in a little more, right? I began to focus on the possibilities. Then I had to sit down and say, well, what does happiness look like to me? Health, fulfillment, inner peace. So then I had to focus on what are my core values? What do I value? What brings me into my life? And again, I knew that if I didn't know my core values, then I was living in someone else's. And that in itself is stressful. Right? What brings me into your mind? What makes your heart sing? Okay? Then from there, I began to focus on my spiritual gifts. That's what I came here to do. I came here to share my gifts with people and to help uplift. And I began to focus on my strengths versus my weaknesses. Right? We're taught to focus on our weaknesses. What's wrong? And many times our weaknesses is a misunderstanding of, or either a lack of skills or lack of resources. Right? And then my strengths, from there, I had to sit down and say, well, how do I desire to live my life? I was painting a picture, I was getting clarity, I was getting to know me. And then from there, I set an intention to live my life with intention to be intentional. Right? So that I can understand how to be from moment to moment. And as I gained clarity of my spirit, then stress started to reduce. The blood pressure came down and the energy was flowing. I wasn't depressed again, but it's still a process. It's an ongoing process. And from there, I began to focus my mind. The clarity of spirit, I was able to choose versus react, right? I practiced my free will because I had direction. And many of us, without realizing it, each day the average person has anywhere between 6 up to 70,000 thoughts a day. And out of those 6,000 to 70,000 thoughts a day that's running in the background, 70 to 80% of those thoughts are negative. And not only they're negative, they're the same thoughts from the day before, the week before, the month before, years before. Can you imagine what that's doing to the mind? And so in order for you to know what you have to be tapped in, right? And we all have that inner critic that tells us what's wrong, but then I had to be grateful for the inner critic. Because it was there to what? Avoid something and keep me safe. And I had to be grateful for it and to look into it. What was I avoiding? What is it that I was not allowing that I truly wanted? That I was limiting or running away from because of my position, right? And I thought it should be. And then from there, I started to become aware of those thought patterns and my self-talk. And some of the surprise, oh my gosh, is that me thinking that? And these things are simple, but they're not easy. But I felt that I was working. You're working. And then from there I set my goals because now my goals had meaning, they had purpose, they had fuel behind it. then from there, self-care for the body. When I'm talking about self-care, I don't mean just exercise. Well, drinking clean water and clean quality food. Self-care to me also means, now that I have some direction in my life, self-care means letting go of toxic relationships. Learning how to set boundaries and say no. Understanding the things that zap my energy. But also having self-compassion for myself and for others. Right? Learning how to incorporate joy into my life. One time I had set out and I was working with some clients, right? And so I decided to do a joy list, right? I never asked clients or anybody to do anything that I'm not willing to do. So I sat down and I said, write down 10 things that bring you joy. And then go out once a week and do those things. Usually things that bring us joy, they don't cost very much. Even something simple as, I love playing tennis, going to a coffee shop. You know, reconnecting with friends. It took me almost a week to come up with 10 things. That let me know that I was not enjoying my life. And we are here to enjoy our lives. Right? And so I knew I had to step into my purpose. Many of you know it, you can feel it, that there's much more. There's much more to you. You know that you are magical whenever your spirit, your mind, you learn how to focus that energy. Let it flow through. I want to get into this. I thought it was an interesting story. So, you guys ever heard of the story of the eagle and the chicken? So, there was on a chicken farm, right? In the street, they had these eagle eggs. And one day, one of the eagle eggs fell onto the farm, right? And eventually hatched. But the eagle grew up thinking it was chicken. It was around a lot of chickens, right? But the spirit is full, out for more. It's like, man, there's much more to it than this. And then one day I looked up and saw this eagle flying. I said, oh my goodness, I wish I could fly. So one eagle looked down and said, what are you doing with those chickens? And the eagle came down and was like, what are you doing down there? The eagle that grew up on the farm was like, you don't think that's good, you can fly. And he was like, well, you are an eagle, you can fly too. I'm like, no, I'm a chicken. Chickens don't fly. You can sell leather whenever you feel like flying, just grab your hands and soar. And they give a flew on. And unfortunately, the eagle died thinking it was a chicken. Now, there's nothing wrong with being a chicken unless you're an eagle. And many of you are living your lives as chickens. And you know you're eagles. You need to let your wings fly and soar. Let that energy flow through you. So stay calm tonight. Listen to the inner spirit. Listen to what it's telling you. And most of you know because that nudge feeling the home is always been there your whole life. You know it. It's time for you to step into it. Sit down, take a little time, get to know yourself.